Hello there, everyone. Welcome back to Alpha Tauri, which promises to be quite an interesting season this time around for two reasons. Reason number one, we're about to finally start with the, female driver team. But secondly, the game has been updated to patch 1.8. That should, in theory, mean that we have some interesting things to look forward to, particularly in terms of sliders for the next season. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this is going to play out. Now, both our drivers aren't going to be super good compared to the rest of the field. Could actually be that they aren't good enough to really get us any points. We'll have to see. But the idea here is because they're overall. Let's be honest, because of their overall, before someone gets angry. But we'll have to see here. We had 900 points last season. We'll have to see if we can actually make something out of that this season, because the big regulation changes have hit. So let's see how good our car actually is compared to the AI. So with that in mind, we are going to go ahead here and just start a new season, get everything set up, and hopefully we'll go through the first 2-3 races as well. So the season target is going to be first, meaning that we could potentially end up in, some pretty muddy water here if we have a few bad results. Sponsorships, let's get them going. Race hospitality, we want to get rid of anything here that we don't need to do. Because, well, it's not great. Number of media appearances, 19, yeah. No, ain't happening. So, we're going to go ahead and do car 2. Drive development is paused. It still sucks, don't get me wrong, but it's just how things are going to have to be. And control performance will be reduced. We'll also, once again, sacrifice car 2. They're going to suffer. But yeah, I really wish I could get rid of these. But unfortunately, we can't. For merchandising here, we're just going to go all in. 20 million. We have 71 million in the bank. We have no real concerns about money currently. So that is A-okay. Preseason management, a sponsor value of almost 120 million. Preseason lump sum income per race looks good. And new season objective is first or above, constructed champion. And we'll see if we can actually pull something off here and avoid getting fired. That's going to be the big goal. Technical changes, let's have a look at what we actually got done. So we barely got any work done on the chassis. We got about 7% gains on the front wing, 13% basically across the board. It's not too bad. The rear wing, 14%, kind of equal there with the front wing. The side pods, a little bit less than the rest, but still okay. The underfloor, got most of its, needed work, 20%. And we put in most into suspension because it got hit the hardest. But still, looking forward to seeing how this translates into next year's car. Financially here, there's no changes as far as I can see, so we're safe there. Sporting-wise though, we have no changes as well, I believe. We don't. Unfortunately, we didn't actually manage to argue our way into getting more engines, ERSs, and gearboxes. That would be really nice this season. And I think we're just going to stick with the Red Bull engine. It just makes life easier. But again, most engines are actually fairly equal in this year's game. Apparently, I still have Tsunoda here somehow, even though he's a free agent. Oh, there we go. Just had to click on him. So he didn't actually find himself a new team, which is, a little bit disappointing. It is what it is, though. Driver development update already. Contreras gotten a adaptability and defending point. I really should probably set her up to develop smoothness and braking. If any one of these have both of them, that is what we're gonna go for. And I believe one does. No. So we need to actually get that braking stat up faster than anything else, I believe. So we'll just put her on short runs. And for Nyman here, who is fairly well balanced, lacking a little bit of cornering rather than the braking. Adaptability, I'm very happy that this is the lowest stat. Makes her kind of, viable. And we kind of have the same issue here with the low braking, low smoothness. So we're going to put her on short runs as well. Get up that cornering and braking. And hopefully we can make something happen during the season. We'll have a good one. Now, because of the way the contracts worked, we had a little bit of an issue here. That's why DuPont is here. We'll have to see if we can replace him sometime soon with a female talent. But yeah, you can actually see just how badly the regulations hit us here in the 25 performance versus 26. We lost about 30% almost DRS effectiveness. Lost almost 0.300 low speed cornering ability. So yeah, Brake cooling, air, engine cooling, all down to around 60%. And that should kind of, again, just tell you just how harshly we got hit with the regulation changes here. But that is kind of what you expect. We can actually expect other teams to have been even more shafted than we are. And you can actually see that here in the car stats. Everyone now has a basic car, but our car is the best. There's just no argument on that front. And if you look at the averages here, they aren't that far behind. Let's have a look at Red Bull, for instance. How far behind is Red Bull actually? So they're just 4% behind us in DRS effectiveness, slightly behind us in... I didn't think they'd be that far behind in top speed. But low speed cornering, medium speed cornering, high speed cornering, they're actually further behind than I would have thought. So it's still looking very promising with our talent. But again, the problem is that they're going to be probably a few seconds slower a lap, just as a base. So we'll have to try and make something out of that, even with that kind of handicap, quote unquote. ATR starts today, allocations announced. We are still going to have very, poor ATR. The pit crew performance has apparently been... Did they lose no performance? That has to be a bug. Okay, so I glitched out my pit crew here and we lost basically 0 performance. Okay, so that's a buff that we might have needed, but still, that's silly. I would assume that is because the patch update and the fact that we were on the last day of the year, maybe. But yeah, that does give our pit crew a sizable advantage, I would think, over the AI. Unless the AI has the same bug applied to them. I guess we'll see during the first race. We can't start in research. This should start to sign, though. And yeah, the internal car report. What we are going to sign immediately, though, is just a chassis. And again, the main thing here is going to be to just get that airflow middle going. As you can see, we do sacrifice a little bit of engine cooling, sacrifice a little bit of top speed. But again, this is a sacrifice that I'm more than willing to make. And we're just going to rush this. Get it out in 14 days. So that we can hopefully get a completely new car come Bahrain in 50 days. So that's going to be a little bit more difficult. Usually it's 53, but the race weekends do move around. So, well, they don't really move around. The dates are the same, but depending on what day you start the month on, sorry, not the month, the year on, the first Grand Prix is going to be sooner or later as a result by plus minus 7 days. Okay, next up, we do want to make, I think, an underfloor. Could also get a front wing going. This takes 45 days. For Bahrain, low and medium speed cornering is kind of important. So let's get that underfloor going. It's still around 70% here, as you can see. So it's not shabby by any means of the imagination. So I don't think we're going to put in any CFD underfloor time into it right now. I don't see the need, more or less. What we could do is keep a little bit of drag reduction here, honestly. But I think what we're going to do instead is just do it like this. It's a little bit boring, but it's going to give us a decent amount of cornering across the board, which is kind of what we're hoping for with the underfloor. And we'll go with this. We'll just do it one normal. Could rush this one as well, but again, it's going to be probably not quick enough. We'd rather rush a something that is quicker to make, like, say, the side pods. And let us also get that front wing under production. And here I'm actually tempted to put in the CFD and mile hours. And get ourselves a little bit of boost on that cornering ability. Because that is kind of going to be key for this year. 60% across the board. Where is our rear wing? It's basically the same. What about the suspension? It's lost a little bit of drag reduction, a little bit of airflow. But it's still not bad. Could actually be here that we do go for the suspension rather than the front wing. To get ourselves a little bit of brake cooling. As well as that low speed cornering ability, that we do something like this. Because that low speed cornering is going to be key on certain tracks. The brake cooling is also going to be key because we have very, very bad smoothness on our drivers, which means that they're going to eat their tires. So we have a couple of challenges ahead of us, let's put it like that. For now though, I think we can do that with the suspension as I said. But we have a couple of other pieces that we do want to kind of get made first. Among them is I think we're going to make side pods and suspension too before the first race. So what I'm thinking is we do front wing, and we do this one normally. Do it like this. It's going to lose us a little bit dirty air tolerance. It's going to lose us some brake cooling. But I think this is going to be okay. We're going to gain a lot of low speed cornering. Now, we're not really lacking for low speed cornering in the moment, but still, going to be worth it. And we'll just do one engineer normal approach. And we'll also go ahead and assign the suspension. I think, yeah, suspension is longer of the two. Once the chassis is done, we can start doing these side pods. So we're going to put in the CFD hours here into the suspension because we kind of need to. And keep in mind now that the way that expertise games work with these sliders is that I'm going to get more expertise for whatever I move all the way to the right. Now, with the old system, that the 1.6 system that they reverted in 1.7, doing it like this could potentially, if you maximize just 1 to 2, stats, could potentially give you a 10, 15, even 20% boost in certain cases. But even if I were to try and do that now, they have kind of neutered it quite a bit. Well, not really neutered. They balanced it in a decently good way, in a way that I would say is much better than the old one. Where even if I were to maximize, say, only the low speed downforce, it would only get at most a couple, maybe 3% more gain than, well, 3% here is actually massive. It would gain more than the rest, but not by, double-digit percentages. You'd be looking at 2 to 3% more, which is not, game-breaking. So that is good. We're going to make this suspension, and we could put in more engineers on it, but I think for now we're just going to confirm it and make it as it is. Use it normally. We're going to have to rush it to get it done before the first race, but that is fine. And what I'm also thinking here is that we might go ahead and put actually 6 engineers on it. I think that is okay. Should probably have rushed that one as well, because the way the CFD internal time works is pretty straightforward. Wind tunnel and CFD time works in the manner that it gets applied basically instantly. And it doesn't matter how long your project is. Each unit is a day of progress, so don't really need to worry about it too much. Now, in terms of what we want to do here for this first month, I think we're just going to do some gym training, mainly. And I'm wondering if they're actually bugged out, because look at this. Even with gym training, they're barely gaining... they're barely getting tired, so... I'm wondering if Peroni's stats might be, having an effect on this. But we might have just discovered a bug, but it's a save game, it's a new patch. Usually you'd want to do a new patch onto a new save game to avoid bugs like these, but it's fine. We'll deal with it as we go. And again, I do think that this season we're going to need every advantage that we can get our hands on. And this looks good. Let's go ahead and just confirm those changes. And we haven't maxed anything, so we'll deal with the car release a little bit later on. That should be a decent idea. So yeah, looking forward to seeing how we do in the first race this season. If this is going to be viable or not, because what we might have need to do is just race them for a season or two as reserves. And if we need to do that, we might need to just, do this on different save. So we're just going to go ahead and make 2 chassis. I think we only have time to make 2. Because we're going to need these slots. Now, the next thing that we want to make is side pods. And the reason why we want to make side pods is twofold: engine cooling and the airflow middle. So both of these are kind of valuable to us. We do lose some top speed again, but I value the cornering ability higher than the top speed ability, personally. As long as we have decent DRS effectiveness, we'll fly by other cars anyways. And the engine cooling here is going to be massively helping us to kind of keep things going. Potentially, if we really wanted to, we could also go ahead and do some intense projects in order to keep things moving a little bit quicker. But I think for now, this is going to be okay. So we'll just do it with 6 engineers, get that sideboard project done. And we'll have to see with suspension here. I don't think we'll have time to get that rear wing going too. But it would have been really, really neat if we did. So this is going to be interesting. The team roster updates, Norris and Red Bull, both Verstappen. Then we have our team, Russell and Leclerc in Ferrari, Gasly and Bottas in Alpine. Then we have Stroll and Piastri in Aston, Ocon and Magnussen in Mercedes, Albon and Porsche in McLaren. So Porsche actually is getting himself a shot here. Sargent and Guan Yu Zhou in Williams. And we have Lawson and Schumacher in the Alpha with Behrman and De Vries in the Haas. So, bit of an interesting field here. Red Bull is still probably going to be, you know, a bit of a threat here. So, we'll see exactly how that plays out this season. But yeah, let us continue and see if we can actually, again, put together a car that is somewhat competitive going into the first race of the year. So, the extended deadline, I think we're going to pay overtime here, rather than, you know, wait an extra 10 days. It's just what we're going to kind of have to do here. The first race of the year is actually here in 20th of February, and we'd be done here if we didn't do that. So we'll kind of have to. The race weekend here is fairly early, and that does kind of limit how much time we have to get the signs done. Suspension design is complete. We're going to go ahead and manufacture it right away. And we want to make 2, maybe 3. I think we only have time to make 2 though. Might need to rush one of these. So I think for now it should be okay. You know, we're going to make 1 normal. And then if we see the need, we'll rush the second one. And we're going to go ahead in now and design that rear wing. And here, the rear wing is going to be a drag reduction DRS Delta wing. It is just the best option for us, and that's all we're going to focus on. The drag reduction, the DRS Delta, get both of these up to be a little bit more competitive when it comes to overtaking. And for this one, we're actually going to rush it. And as you can see, with rushing it with 6 engineers, we might get 1 ready for that first race. So we're spending a little bit of extra cash to get this going. But you can imagine, with all these things done at basically the same time, we are going to have a little bit of a engineering, you know, pile up. So we'll see how that works. Another adaptability point for Contreras. Accuracy for Nyman. Okay, let us go with a custom setup here. We'd like to, you know, set up for the race weekend itself. It seems like the estimated pit stop time here has gone up just since last month, which is curious. That's actually very curious. We lose that much a month. And as you can see, we'll get about 0.003 per gym training session. So definitely cut down on speed in which you gain pick through skill, I would think. And we're looking good still. So let's put in a couple more pit stop drills. Try and keep that error chance low. Still have a little bit to go on, so let's put in a couple more. Like so. And we're now reaching tie territory, so we're going to finish off this with a couple of gym sessions before Jeddah. And we'll just do it like so. 4 days in the gym, then you have the weekend off, long weekend. And I think this is acceptable for us. We still lose a little bit of what we could have gained, but the balance is there now, and that is okay with me. Chance of mistake is still incredibly low. Chassis ×2 have been made. Suspension ×1 has been made. So as I said, because we're probably going to have a bit of a rush here, we'll just make 1 like so. Rushed, it's going to cost us a little bit extra, but I want to have our car ready by the first race weekend. And that is the hope. We can't really start another chassis either, because we're going to have a bunch of the signs finishing here. And in order to get these 2 sideboards ready for Sakir, we're just going to rush both of them. Again, going to cost a little bit extra, going to take some out of our cost cap, but I think it's going to be worth it, honestly. Now, next up, what do we want to design? Probably an engine. Sorry, not engine, a chassis. Where we focus a little bit on the stats that we are kind of neglecting. And we'll just have it run normal. It's still going to give us stats, so that is fine. We're not going to use that chassis. But it's still okay, I think, to do things like this. The underfloor has been completed, and we're going to have to do the same thing here where we rush it to get 2 out in time. And we're also going to go ahead here and design, I think, maybe a side pod. Because the side pod is kind of lacking behind. Let's have it focus on... Let's have it still focus on the things that we care about most, to be fair. And we'll go ahead and just make it normally at this point. Because now we can actually start slowing down a little bit. Do things more in its kind of normal manner, if you will. And that should be a-okay. Front wing design is complete now. And for this one too, we're going to be rushing it. And I think we're going to rush 3 of them. Because it's very likely with our current drivers that they will crash and destroy at least 1 front wing during this race weekend. I honestly would be amazed if they didn't. So that is what we're doing. Now the suspension, I probably should go ahead and make a new one immediately. That is kind of a error that I haven't. Because we did put in CFD and wind tunnel time. So if we don't make a new one, we don't get the most gain out of it. And as you can see here, the brake cooling was about 8 to 9%. Now it's 12. Gain a little bit more in low speed. I think this was 52. Now it's 67. So I definitely should get this made as quickly as possible. However, in this case, we'll just put extra engineers on it. And I think that is an acceptable way to deal with it. So, pause all current car project designs. Currently, we are still lacking that rear wing. So, basically, do we want to risk it to get that rear wing ready for the current race? Or do we just approve the investigation, get the design project shut down? In this case, as I said, the only thing we really are lacking is that rear wing. I think we'll just have to approve of it. And if it's for 10 days, we'll still get it in, plenty of time available before Jeddah. So I guess we'll just approve the investigation, because if we lose more time later on, that's gonna probably hurt us a bit more, honestly. Type of manufacturing has been complete. Did I manufacture 2? I think I did. I did. Underfloor manufacturing complete, and at this point we probably can start doing a extra chassis, and again just make these normally. Same with the side pod, make an extra one of those. And because I should actually have done this a little bit earlier, honestly, let's get the suspension made first. That usually takes damage quicker. I should have made those earlier because of the error that we had with the wind tunnel here, because we kept one slot open for the rear wing. But that is a-okay. So season is starting. Race prep, Bahrain Grand Prix. Performance targets. Let's just be cautious and say 1 drive in the top 10 for the first 2 races, so I can kind of gauge up where we're at, because driver stats do matter quite a bit. So potentially we might struggle to finish in the top 10, even with a car that should be flying. Let us go into the warehouse and have a look at what we can put on our car. As you can see, this chassis alone should be a massive boost, and I believe it's still ranked first in car analysis. Nope, showing speed as an acceleration, high speed cornering now. So they have put in some work. They are getting closer to us. But if we put on this chassis, we are going to beat them probably in both, I would think. Nope, not acceleration, but we are going to be back up in the top speed. Let us put on the front wing. That should help us a little bit too with that kind of, those kinds of things. And the side pods there as well. Pretty decent boost all around. The underfloor, pretty decent boost. Do lose a little bit of the top speed, but again, it is a sacrifice that I'm willing to make to get a good car for cornering. So with all those things on the car now, we're still almost the quickest team in terms of top speed. So we didn't actually lose out too much there. But I would assume that Red Bull now has reclaimed that crown, and they have. But you can actually look at just how massively, ahead of them we are in terms of the low speed cornering in particular, the medium speed. We're not that high, far ahead in the high speed, dirty air tolerance, but they have definitely sacrificed some of their brake cooling and their engine cooling in order to, you know, make themselves a bit more competitive here. They have yet to make a rear wing though, because the DRS effectiveness is the exact same. So with that said, we are pretty much ready to jump into Bahrain. This should be a fairly interesting affair. And as I said, I'm very curious on how we're going to be stacking up here. This could be the end of the save by me getting fired within the first 10 races this season. We'll see. But yeah, let's jump into Bahrain and see how we do. Practice has been kind of promising, in all honesty here. As you can see, we have Contreras in 3rd, Nyman down in 14th. But it is promising, as I said. The gap in practice, though, is just 1.2 seconds. So we'll have to see exactly what we're looking at. But potentially, Contreras here could contribute. So it's looking good. Setups aren't too bad either. But qualifying, I think, is going to be, you know, the proper test. We're also going to be struggling a little bit for the first few races here with confidence as a result of them both having, you know, kind of switched race engineers. So you can imagine that might be a tad bit of an issue. But honestly, I think will be fairly okay here. We're going to be sacrificing a little bit of this stat, but hopefully this will more than make up for it. So that should also bring us close to 100% there. But yeah, let's see how we look now in qualifying 1. In terms of pace, it's probably not going to look too great. We're probably going to have to do more than one run. But at the same time here, we are on 1.8. There has been qualifying changes. And as a result, we'll probably be seeing, you know, some new things here. Nyman running wide, 9 turns into quali. That's not a... not a promising one, but to be fair, it is warm-up lap. It's not the worst thing ever. We can handle it. And luckily, both of them are going to have kind of a clear run here. We also have Verstappen out basically at the same time, which should, you know, help us estimate just where we are. And Contreras here with a 30.6. What exactly is the quickest lap here? 31 blank, but that is in race spec, so... Looking good. Nyman isn't that far behind. We have a second on the Williams. Now, Verstappen is going to be the big one. He actually is placed square in the middle here. So potentially with the car that we have right now, we could have a bit of an interesting fight. I'm looking forward to seeing if Norris or anyone else can actually, you know, get our, you know, girls off the pole, and they can't. So basically, if this is representative, which it might not be because, let's face it, it's Q1, we might have a fairly decent qualifying performance at least. But we do need to keep in mind that both of them have low smoothness, and that is going to come back to bite us on a lot of tracks. So we're going to have to probably do some less aggressive strats, which of course is going to hurt us in race back. And as you can see, Verstappen now is 4 tenths ahead of us. So yeah, both Red Bulls now ahead of our drivers. That is not what we like to see, but at the same time, we don't really want to use the tires any more than we need to. In this case, we are safely through, 3rd and 4th. But it could hint towards us having a bit of a fight there with the Red Bulls, which honestly would be good. I don't think the board will yeet me if I end up 2nd, but we'll see. And apparently here, you have decided to save 3 sets of mediums. Which is honestly probably the best strategy I've ever seen here. It's probably going to need those mediums, that's the worst part. I might have a season here where I need to take more control of the practice to make sure that we have tires that can kind of withstand the, you know, withstand their, the degradation that these girls are going to put on it. Let's see how we do here now on the use run. Verstappen is behind us. He should probably have a slow time due to it. But yeah, this is not that great, honestly. We'll have to see what we do with Nyman. Potentially we'll have to use a fresh set here. Which is fine, because she has enough mediums that we can run them for the entire race. But softs are also pretty good. So we would like to try and keep a pair if we can. So what I'm thinking we do here is we send her out immediately on these older softs again. And we try and set a better time. I think Contreras will be safe, even though as you can see Norris is half a second quicker. I don't think we have anything to fear from that.
We have P10.
But Nyman here is going to need to go out on
not too bad, actually.
a fresh set of tires here for sure. 3:31, so basically everyone now is setting up to go out. I think we have found ourselves the window that we can get. And we're going to have to send her out again on fresh tires in order to try and, you know, set a decent time. Confidence-wise, we are looking, you know, decent.
Check her flag, this is 11.
She is setting personal best so far. And that is really all that we can ask of her at this point. Got the final corner done. Beat Contreras' time, so yeah. We're not too shabby. Once we get a little bit more driver development here, it's looking good. But we might have to be happy with a second place this year, potentially, if things keep on going like this. For Q3 here, again, we have a ton of softs here for Contreras. We have, you know, a U soft, a fresh soft. I would like to keep a fresh soft for the race if possible, but honestly, let's face it, that's probably not going to happen. So we are going to send one driver out. We're going to wait a few seconds, send the second driver out. Kind of dirty there. We kind of blocked Norris a little bit. But even so, he should, if he's quicker than us, set a better time. I have no doubts about that. And Alpine here has actually gotten himself in as the 5th best team right now. Or rather, 4th best, maybe even ahead of potentially P1. Stroll and Piastri.
On charge on right away, please.
And as you can see here, Norris did end up with a bit of a better time. And I do love that you can actually see now that cars are just straight up getting out of the way. No discussion. Now for Nyman, I don't think we're going to be able to set a better time than 3rd or 4th. So we're going to send her out on these used tires. But we're going to be sending her, you know, kind of in a little bit of an open area here. But the idea here is very simple. If we can beat that time, great. If not, it's not going to be a horrible thing. We want to just have a fresh set of tires for the race itself. And interesting enough here, because of the fact that they're going slower, to make up for that, we might have cars that not reach the line. Russell, I think he just about made it. But the Ferrari there of Leclerc definitely did not. But he was on a fast lap, so it didn't really matter. But yeah, as you can see, 3rd and 5th, most likely.
P5.
So race here is going to be somewhat interesting, particularly if you see that over a single lap here, Verstappen still has so much pace on us that this might be one hell of a struggle, honestly. Okay. Now I'm wondering if it's going to take into consideration, you know, their degradation, and I would severely doubt that. So I think for our sanity's sake, we might want to start on that only medium compound we have and just see how hard it is going to degrade. Because we are definitely going to need another soft stint in here somewhere. I can guarantee that for sure. Either that or we take advantage of the hard stint. We could of course also put that in there. But the hards are just so slow here compared to the other tires that we kind of want to try and avoid it if we can. As you can see here, the hards are 1.2 seconds slower as a baseline to the soft. And with the degradation difference, it's still going to take 20 laps for them to become equal. Medium to hard, you see, are basically the exact same thing. So if we can stay away from the hard, we will do so. For Nyman here, though, we can do something a bit more interesting. Doesn't really have a proper soft tire, so we can try this. See how far we get on the mediums, and I think that is it. I think these first few races are not only going to be figuring out where we stand, but also figuring out where we stand in terms of, well, for one, we're going to have to use way more fuel than the other teams because of the low smoothness, but we also need to figure out where we stand in terms of tire degradation. That's going to be the big one. For now, though, let's just jump into Bahrain. As I said, we'll probably have to adjust these strategies on the fly. That's why I haven't put too much time into them. Bad start there, as we could see from Nyman and Contreras for that matter. And we're going to put both of them to rarely defend, low aggression. And we want to use the ERS battle assist if given the opportunity. Looks like they still made it up a little bit more, though. Up into third and fifth now. The Ferrari comes back, though.
We're happy to stay where we are.
But that's still acceptable. We are still fighting the Ferrari, so we have to take that in as a positive here. Haven't really been able to eke ahead yet, but that should still be okay. Now Norris is on soft tires. He's going to leave basically everyone behind here. Russell, Piastri, but luckily Verstappen and Leclerc are both on mediums as well. So this is going to be an interesting one, particularly in terms of degradation. Looks like we have reached stability though, kind of. And as you can see, Norris already 1.6 seconds ahead of Verstappen. So those soft tires definitely doing work. And potentially, if we had started on the soft tires and pulled away like they're doing, we might have been able to do something very, very similar. Unfortunately, we didn't do that. And honestly, I don't think we would have been able to pull away that quickly, because it's also reliant on driver's skill. So it's one of those things that is hard to kind of gauge if it would work or not. But right now, it's looking good. We are, again, just falling backwards from Verstappen. Degradation is looking a little bit, acceptable here, honestly. It's probably going to look a little bit worse now that we're, getting up into the temperatures here. Closer to that 130, degree marker.
Okay, tires are hot.
And that is probably going to have a negative effect here as Nyman gets overtaken. But yeah, so far it looks good. Well, apart from the fact that we're falling down the grid, it's looking good. Let's put it like that. But it could actually be a somewhat competitive season with things as they are right now. So we'll speed things along here. Not really much going on. As I said, we're just going to sit where we are. We're going to manage fuel. We're going to keep an eye on degradation. And we'll see where we're at once we get very close. A little bit closer to that first pit stop. But as you can see right now, we're probably going to be the second quickest team at the moment. And Verstappen is on soft, medium tires here. Norris is on soft tires. If we want to eke out wins, it's going to have to be through strategy. So it's going to be a bit challenging, but we'll see what we can do. We've had a spin hit from Norris, which kind of helps us out a bit. Although he did kind of park in a dangerous part of the track. He's now down into 17th. We are running second and third at the moment. But as you can see, degradation has been quite a lot harsher than we expected. Basically, we're going to have to pit around lap 20 for basically both of them. We have adjusted 9-minute strategy here. We're going to have to do the same here for Contreras. What I'm thinking there is that we might try something like this. And if the degradation doesn't follow the aggressive plan, what we're going to do instead then is just go full attack and do a 3-stopper, basically. We don't really have any other choice. There's not really a lot of stretch in the field either, so when we pit, we are going to have to deal with, other cars potentially blocking us a bit. That's going to slow us down as well. But at this stage, as I said, we don't really have a choice. We need to try and make the most out of every tire that we have available to us. We might actually just have to go for a hard tire potentially towards the end. But we're going to go for a soft now, and we're going to see if we can make that last by going aggressive. And as you can see, other cars are pitting now, other soft runners. And that starts to, give us a little bit of potential here to, make something happen. For Nyman, we're going to stretch her one more lap before we pit her. And we're also going to go on to another set of medium and then hard towards the end. Hard will also have to try and be aggressive, but Nyman has higher smoothness than Contreras, so that should be a lot more safer to do, so to speak. Contreras now out in 8th, a lot of free air, which is actually exactly what we need, because that free air is going to allow it to push without losing too much of the tire as a result. And we are turning down to aggressive, and we'll have to see how bad the degradation will be here. If it's incredibly bad after like 3 or 4 laps, we are going to go ahead and tune it into a more aggressive setting. Nyman here getting jumped by 2 cars because Verstappen pitted at the same time. No pit stop error. Probably had the quickest pit stop. But we are losing out to Piastri, to Russell, Gasly. Well, Russell and Gasly pitted earlier, but yeah, we lost out to a lot of cars there for no good reason, honestly. And that is a tad sad, in my honest opinion. But we can probably make something out of this. We have cars pitting. But yeah, the fact now that we have been jumped by 4 cars, 2 of them basically jumped us without pitting. Well, by pitting earlier, and 2 jumped us in the pit stops is a little bit frustrating. I will not lie. It's something that I really hope they fix that. Because if we basically pit at the same time as another car, we shouldn't be held up that badly, I would argue. Lyman, though, will have to just push now, try and catch up to them, try and make the best out of this. Contreras is running first, but is getting caught quite aggressively, I might add, by Verstappen, who is also on a soft tyre. So we'll have to see how this fight develops towards the end of this race. We've had an incident here. Nyman has spun. Final corner is now down into 14th.
Now we can see what happened.
That's going to be a bit problematic. But nothing much we can do about that. We'll just have to take it. And that is kind of a dangerous return to the track. But yeah, lost a bunch of positions here. Down in 16th. Gonna have one heck of a fight to get back up. And we'll have to see what we do here with the tires. If it can actually last until we go onto the soft one. We've had another incident. This time Contreras has had a bit of a spin. Unfortunately. We had about 5 seconds on Verstappen. But, well, we don't anymore because of that spin. That also puts our tires really far down into the danger zone. So, if we want to pit here, we're basically just going to have to go full attack and do 2 pit stops. I think that is the only real option that we have. But even then, it's going to be not great. Let's put it like that. We're just going to have to try and make something out of this. And with Nyman's spin too, it makes her strategy basically compromised. And as one can expect here, we're not really making any headways either into beyond those 2 hasses. They're just running side by side, so we don't really have any proper overtaking opportunities either. And that is putting us onto the back foot quite massively here. Now, Contreras has actually used their tires up completely, so we're going to do what we did here. Just go full on attack, do 2 stints on the softs, and we'll just have to try and make the best out of this situation, because we don't really have any other options at the moment. And we come out in 14th there, 2.247 pit stop, so a little bit more variation in pit stop times, I guess. Minor error maybe. But with the help of confidence, once we get that back up, we should be seeing a lot better times here. That is also something that we kind of have to bank on with this strategy. So we'll see if Contreras here can fight our way back up. Again, not really anything else we can do. It's been a bit of an unfortunate first race for both of our drivers here, with Nyman having that spin. Basically put her to the back of the field to begin with. But also the pit stop's not really working out in our favor at all. But yeah, we'll have to see if Contreras can hunt something here. She did set fastest lap. There is a bit of a DRS train, though, now to deal with, which is going to be a bit painful, I think. Particularly since Norris is actually being the blocker here. So that is going to, you know, kind of cause potentially a bit of a stoppage here. But if we can get him on the straight, that should open things up now for us launching attacks in other areas of the track. So should be okay now, hopefully. We do have the McLaren of Albon, we do have Leclerc, but as long as we can get one of them, say, on this straight, that would be massive. Can we stay ahead of Albon? We can. And again, I'm just focusing mainly on Contreras here, but we are going to put Nyman in now for that final stop, and we are going to tune her down to aggressive. Kind of just have to let her run her own race at the moment. Points are going to be difficult, let's put it like that. And the goal here is going to be to get Contreras as high up in the points as we can in this opening race. But the spins, basically the tire issues have been kind of a problem to getting that done. For now, though, we'll just do the best that we can out of this. Contreras is still, you know, flying up the field. And this peak confidence is really helping with lower stats, particularly the braking stat here. Even with this +7 boost, she's still just 55. So need to get that up. Need to get the smoothness up, and then we'll have a little bit more fight on our hands. Alright, so up until this point, I realized the race probably feels a bit rushed. I unfortunately had something that I needed to get to, and I thought I'd be able to just sit down and get the start and this first race done before that. Unfortunately, I didn't. So far, the first race has probably been a tad rushed. We'll take it a bit slower at Coda. But so far, we aren't looking too good, honestly. Nyman is down in 19th with fresh tyres, though. So at least that is a benefit here. Contreras is in 5th, but in a position where we are going to have to pit again. To be fair, though, Russell, Gasly, and as you can see, Piastri are all going to be pitting as well. So it's not necessarily a super bad thing, the situation we find ourselves in. Everyone is still going to have to pit. We're in 5th. We can potentially do some, magic here for a podium. But it's still going to be probably a bit of a rough fight, so to speak. We do have Stroll here on our backs. He actually just overtook us with the help of DRS. So, as one might imagine, we're still not really out of the danger zone, so to speak. We still have some work ahead of us that we need to kind of try and pull off here. So, we don't really want to help Stroll here. We kind of want to probably beat Verstappen out, though. That would actually be pretty amazing. As long as we beat Verstappen out here, we might be able to hold him up just a little bit, maybe. We could even potentially have Leclerc play that very important role for us for a lap's time, which would be amazing. Nyman here is up into 17th, but as I said, we'll be leaving her to kind of do her own thing. I don't really have much of a, choice or possibility to influence this. Although, if you consider the grind up to points, it's just 18 seconds. And, well, at least one of these guys, Lawson, is probably going to need to pit. Not really anyone else, so that's going to make her life very, very difficult. Contreras is up in 1st, but as I said, the fight here is going to be with Russell, Ocon, Gasly for a podium place. And unfortunately, that is the situation we find ourselves in. In terms of how long we can make these tires last, it seems a little bit of a 10 laps, so we want to pit probably within the next 3 or so laps to get the most out of tires. Again, we pitted on lap 34. We're currently on lap 43, 44, and we've used about 50% of our tires. So we are going to have to stretch to probably 46, 45, 46 at the very least before we pit her. But yeah, it's not looking great here. We're 2 seconds slower currently than Verstappen. We're a second slower than Russell. So hopefully Leclerc did play his role a little bit then, holding, the rest of the pack up. And if we can save it Verstappen here, this would be amazing. Get a little bit of DRS help on this this lap here, which honestly is something that we really, really are going to need. And if we can, we're going to, of course, cling to him as long as we can, just in terms of getting that little bit extra pace. But we're already out of the DRS zone. We are going to be pitting now for that final pit stop and hopefully get something out of this. Nyman is up into 15th. But again, it's still a lot of work. Had some spin, some lockups for both drivers there. That has, pushed us down the order. Contreras does now pit for the final pit stop. We can see Stroll staying out, Gasly. It's going to be a lot of cars here being probably a bit of a nuisance. 2.251 is the pit stop time. And we are 23 seconds behind Verstappen. We're about 13 seconds behind a podium. So as I said, that is still very, very viable. Particularly if we can just keep on flying past cars in front of us. So I'm going to allow us to run a little bit of Harvester, I was thinking, but if we have DRS now on show, we should be able to get him into the corner maybe. Not really, but with a little bit of extra push. Potentially into the next corner, and then we just keep on going. See if we can get Norris, see if we can get Gasly quick. And if we can pull that off, then we still do have a pretty decent chance there. Now, the main concern is going to be the fact that we don't really have... We basically have made our car. We have made full advantage of the car to put it into, a bit of a probably weird wording. But we've already made one of every piece with the exception of the rear wing. And the other teams have basically not done that yet. They still have paths to go on. So from a performance perspective, this isn't too promising. But again, Nyman here did get kind of screwed over by random events. Did screwed over by the pit stops. So it is a very unfortunate race that she's had. But could still potentially get up in the points here if we push her. But we want to save the energy here, I think, until we can go for said push. And Contreras now Made it past Norris. Is going to be able to catch Gasly. Again, I don't think we can catch Verstappen, but a second place here is definitely doable. And then we just need to, you know, make the most out of it whenever Verstappen has a bad weekend like we've had this time around. There's really no other way to do this, I think. That does look to be the idea here. So Contreras should be getting up to the back of Gasly just about now. And again, we have just slightly better tires at this stage. We are running them on attack though. Does give us an advantage. So we'll see if we can take that advantage and use it to its fullest extent. Around the outside of Gasly, very nice. Stroll is up next. He should be a much easier, you know, customer. He has old mediums. We should just fly by him on the straight here. And then we can start chasing down Russell. So, not the worst thing ever, honestly. Nyman is still kind of falling kind of far behind these boys, so we'll have to see how we deal with that. We also see that the degradation on these softs is higher than expected. So her tires might actually die before they reach the finish line. And if they do, that's going to be kind of problematic. So we're going to go ahead and deploy here, get to the back of the cars, try and get some moves done before that happens. And again, this is just for a fight for 1 point. Leclerc is also in said fight, so that's going to make it a little bit rougher. But it's basically the only option that we have for her in terms of trying to get a good result in the first race. For Contreras, we're just going to leave her as she is. She will catch Russell at 1 point, and then we can use fuel and energy to get by. But yeah, for Nyman, Leclerc is going to be a bit of a blocker, so to speak, a bit of an annoyance. But there's nothing really we can do about that other than just try and push on the occasions that we have. Because again, Leclerc has better tires. If he can't get past the cars in front, I don't think we're going to be getting past him. That's the main concern that I'm currently having. Contreras has caught up to Russell though, so should be a pretty straightforward drive-by, so to speak. And if we need to, we can deploy, of course, some ERS. But right now, doesn't seem to be the move. So let's just recharge for a lap, and then we'll get the move done. And as you can see, Nyman is still stuck behind Leclerc. Which, again, it's just such a shame that we have a Leclerc on fresh tyres that is acting as a little bit of a blocker for her. But you win some, you lose some. For now, though, I'm thinking when we want to make Contreras make the move. She actually did on her own there. And with that, I think we are going to just push, and we're going to deploy. And we're going to try and extend this gap a little bit. But yeah, I think we'll be playing Jeddah a tiny bit slower, more like I've done the final part here. I was just in a rush, unfortunately. Pretty nice overtake, though. Pretty clean. Yeah, by the time I think Leclerc's going to get all his overtakes done, we're probably going to be out of it in terms of getting points here. So if we get Ocon now, yeah, it's no way we're getting both Bottas and Albon, I would say. But at least we can get a little bit of confidence building, get by Ocon, then maybe get by Bottas. So still not necessarily a bad thing. Now, Contreras is pushing to try and get away from Russell. I guess we'll use a little bit more energy to get that done. And as long as we can stay a second ahead of Russell, I think we basically have it in the bag. Unless, of course, we have an incident, which could, of course, always happen. So we want to be a little bit more careful. Put the fuel back to balance. We gave Nyman a little bit extra oomph here, but the tires are virtually gone. So even that extra oomph isn't going to be enough to really change things up here, I think. But we'll try and, you know, finish as high as we can, even with that in mind. Oh, never mind, she crashed.
Are you okay?
Got herself a time penalty as well, so yeah. That is unfortunate.
Here we are then at the 11th corner. Dangerously
Let's see
close
exactly
to
what
each
happened
other.
here.
The cars coming together.
Guess she touched his back tire there, but again, just a minor incident. Luckily, only the front wing took damage, which is acceptable. Let's be honest here. It's not the best thing ever, but it's not completely horrid either. And the fact that we can actually you know, secure a second place here. Honestly, Nyman would probably been far higher if it wasn't for getting stuck in, you know, pit traffic, everything. I still say this is an acceptable first try, so to speak. I don't think we really can describe it in any other way. For now, though, since the only thing we can do here is lose places with Nyman, we're just going to allow it to speed it into the end. And we do secure a second place. It's better than nothing. Norris ends at 4th. So we might actually have to fight here to get a win this season. And honestly, kind of what I expected. But I think a lot of this season is actually going to be decided by RNG. And what I mean by that is basically how much RNG are we going to experience in terms of not only the tires, but also things like Nyman here getting held up in the pits for 2-3 places more than she should have. I think it was her. And also, of course, the spins, things like that, just causing pandemonium. So we'll see what we can do. Show here, 7th. Bit of a surprise. Albon in 10th. Then we have Leclerc, Stroll, Piastri. Bit of a surprise as well, honestly. Gasly. So very interesting top 10 here. Driver Championship then. No real surprise. Fastest lap goes to Gasly. And the Red Bull here has basically twice our points here at the start. We'll see what we can do with that. Pit stop times here, the 10 quickest ones. So as you can see, Verstappen is still on 1.8, so the AI did not get punished with slower pit stops. So this is going to be quite interesting to see how this develops over the course of the season, because we had some interesting ones here, like 2.2, 2.5. So there's some pretty big variance here in the pit stop times, to be fair. We're not going to be developing DuPont at all. We did complete all our performance guarantees though, so that is good. And I think we can safely say both cars is going to make it into Q3 most of the times. And we can gamble on one car on the podium. That should be okay. Front-wing manufactured, Bahrain feature race results, Crawford, Aaron and Martins for F2. Biddiscombe, Juggernaut and Sakurai for F3. And we have destroyed that one front wing. And at this point, as long as we keep one slot open for that rear wing, that will be done fairly soon, in 3 days, I think we'll be fine. We'll just have to kind of jiggle the others a little bit here. We do need more front wings for the next race. We do need more rear wings. And since it's 3 days, to be fair, we can actually go ahead and just manufacture a front wing here normally. And that shouldn't be a concern at all. Wind tunnel data concern. Okay, so they did indeed discover a fault. So if we could ignore that, we'd basically be losing probably 2-3 weeks later on in the season, which could have been worse, honestly. Sidepod manufacture, suspension manufacture, and front wing manufacture complete, as well as that rear wing having been finished. We are going to go ahead and just make 3 of them immediately. And I think we're also going to go ahead and make just one more front wing. Because if there's anything that I think we're going to need, it's mainly the front wings. Because, you know, low control drivers tend to destroy them the most. And that is going to help us out a little bit there. Now, in terms of what we want to make next, it's going to depend on what we want to focus on. Because you can actually get a couple extra percentage points now by focusing a slider. So we could do, you know, something like this. Just as an example, where we say focus the airflow sensitivity. This would make us a, you know, a front wing that is massively powerful for that front wing sensitivity. But at the same time, it would give us more boost from the expertise. We could also balance it out a little bit by doing it like this. So we have options. But as you can see, even maximize just one stats here, we don't lose too much in terms of the others. So if we really like the airflow, we could do that. But let's be honest, we don't, so we won't. But we could make a more balanced one like this. As you can see, we'll lose about 0.006 Gs in both of these. We gain about 0.023 in the high-speed corners. And we gain 3% dirty air, 3%, almost 4% brake cooling. But this wouldn't actually be a bad wing for us to make, honestly. Just straight up from that perspective. And if we're going to make it, I'm probably going to make it like this. So I'm actually going to make this one because it looks like an interesting, you know, thing that we can do and put on particularly high-speed tracks. So let's go ahead and make that. Of course, there's other projects that we want to do, but for now, that is going to be the priority. And we do have this suspension coming in 26 days. That's going to be probably a sizable upgrade as well. So let's head to Jeddah, see where we stand, and then work from there. Chassis manufacture complete. Front wing manufacture complete. I think we still need to develop probably another chassis, I would think. They're also something that gets easily destroyed, somewhat easily destroyed, and they take a lot of time to make. Other than that, I think we just keep the 3 suspensions that we have. Although it is a little bit risky, I think it's fine. And we go ahead and make another side pod. I think that is going to be okay. Now, the reason why we don't want to make suspension is because we're making a new one that we are going to replace the current one with, for sure. And suspensions do tend to get damaged easily when you wheel bang and, you know, otherwise have incidents in this game. So we do want to have a few of them as security, more or less. Driver development update, a point in braking, adaptability, and accuracy for Contreras. We'll take that. Cornering and accuracy for Nyman. We'll take that as well. Not the shabbiest of level ups there. DuPont, on the other hand, also gets 3 points. So yeah, we'll take this. It's fine. But at this rate, the first stat Contreras is going to maximize is actually the adaptability stat. I really wish that the higher a stat, the more focus it would be on, say, the things you're lacking. Like in this case, the braking stat. So the pit crew here, we'll have a look at where we're at. Looks accurate now in terms of where they would be, you know, in terms of the work we asked them to do. So that is good. Give them a little bit of a gym session in the start of the week, and that should be okay. We'll do the same here, because honestly, we don't really have any problems. It seems like the K has been changed now. So there is actually some decay during the... Well, there always was some decay, but it was very, very minor. Seems like there is actually a pretty aggressive decay now during the race weeks, so to speak, and that is good, honestly. Put in some gym training here, just pushes it into tired. I guess we can do like this then. Guess we'll take that, and we'll do just 4 pit crew here. Put in a couple more pit crew, 1 more pit crew practice, and then we'll put in some gym training for the remainder of the days before the next month. And as they'll be well rested on both of those days, we'll put in some more gym training. I think this is fine. We can adjust it as we get there. But as you can see here, we do still increase our skills. We lose a bit on the car building side, but again, I don't value that too much. It's situationally very useful, but that's just it. I'd rather focus on something that is always useful than something that is situationally useful in this game. So that is why we're doing things the way that we are. We have a new ATR period, and here's the question: do we use it on a new part, or do we go ahead and use it on a design? And I think the answer to that is pretty simple. We are going to have to use it on the design most likely in order to stay somewhat competitive. So that is exactly what we're going to do. Now, fastest lap is a bit of a double-edged sword, so let's not touch that one. We'll save both cars into Q2, and we'll also save both cars in the top 10. Not really much of a payout for it, but then again, we have 50 million. We're not really after the money. We're just trying to maximize what we can get. So playing it safe while, you know, I'm playing it safe while taking a little bit of risk. It's basically the safe bet, so to speak. But now though, we'll jump into the Arabian GP and we'll see how we perform. I did actually forget the fact that we had new rear wings. So as you can see, we're in P3 before we put them on. But as you can see, these rear wings are going to boost stats a little bit. We're going to lose a little bit of air tolerance, but the top speed here, the little bit extra cornering that we get are going to be valuable here, particularly also the DRS effectiveness. Probably going to put us back into first place for, you know, top speed. So we're just going to go ahead and install these on both cars. And we'll just have to take a look towards the next race, really, to see where we stand on those car parts. But we're looking good here in terms of getting the car acclimatization going. Basically, the setup should be okay. Practice has been actually looking pretty decent, too. We are going to be simming practice for the most part, I think, unless we really need parts. But as you can see, Contreras, Nyman, they're both kind of competitive. So I am liking what I'm seeing so far, I'll be honest. And this time we are starting with a little bit better confidence. And again, for these two drivers, that confidence boost is going to be massive. So if we can retain high confidence, that is going to be the key, I think, to most of our good results this season. Basically, get them up into high confidence because the stat boost that they get, remember, they are fairly low. They're fairly low on their stats. And that's not to be mean or anything. It's just a reality. They have fairly low stats. And the main way that we're going to boost those stats is through, you know, confidence until we get them to just level up normally. For now, though, I'll jump into qualifying and we'll see if we see anything interesting. If not, we'll just get ready for race day. We have secured our first pole position. Nyman pulled off the incredible run here, as you can see. 27.1, 2/10 really, ahead of Norris and Verstappen. So a little bit of luck here. We're starting first and fourth. We'll take that for sure. Now, in terms of strategies here, as we know, the degradation on the tires is probably way more aggressive than what you can ever expect. So what I'm thinking here is that we go with a very bold, very aggressive, hard to medium, with a soft stint towards the end. And it's going to probably look something like this. And I don't know if we'll be able to pull that off. That's the thing. And I think we're going to have to do that for both cars. Now, the hards here aren't necessarily very good, but they are durable. And that's going to be the idea here. And if we have a look at the pre-race report, the compound performance, the hards are about 8/10 slower than the softs. And degradation-wise, it'll take 20 laps for them to become equal, meaning that softs are always going to be better here. Medium is about 5/10, and even then it's about 25 laps. So it's basically what you can use. This is a bit of a gamble though, because we're starting front, you know, the front here. Going hards very early can definitely backfire. So it's either this or we go mediums as long as we can, which honestly is probably the better strategy for Nyman. Now that I think about it, we'll just go ahead and do something like this. Go, you know, medium, then hard, then soft towards the end. And the reason why I start her on the mediums is because she has already a good starting point. As long as she gets a decent launch, she will be able to keep up with the Red Bulls. They'll be able to kind of give her a tow. And that should give us a little bit more of an advantage that will help us out. Contreras isn't that really far down in 4th place. We could probably put her on the same strategy. But I kind of want to try and do a little bit more experimentation. Particularly when we have drivers that will eat through their tires like these two. So we're going to do this and we'll see how it pans out. I might also, of course, have to adapt to less aggressive strategies, but I want to see if I can make this work first. Very bad start there from Nyman. Going to immediately get jumped by Verstappen, I think, or Norris in this case. Not the best start from Contreras either. Could get jumped here by 2 cars. And I think that is exactly what's going to happen, but that's more understandable after all. It's a hard tire.
We're happy to stay where we are.
And for Nyman, just falling back in one place isn't necessarily a bad thing. It is something we can handle. But yeah, the more cars we hold behind us here on these hards, the better. Because that's going to mean that we are basically slowing them down a bit. Oh, yellow flag. Nyman locked up immediately. Of course she did.
Here's the replay. Let's have a look as we go into the 13th corner.
So yeah, we might need to work a little bit more on our control as well.
There's the lockup, and they'll need to be mindful of the effect that had.
So we'll have to probably do another kind of recovery race for her. Luckily, it didn't shred the tires as badly as one might think. But yeah, I feel like losing 80 position like this should probably hit your confidence a bit more than that. But it is what it is. That does kind of release the Red Bulls to just do their own thing. Which is honestly something we did not want to have happen. But it did. So we'll still do our best here. We'll see if we can, you know, make some sort of comeback. Nyman is just going to have a rough time here. Going to have to make through the whole pack and, you know, work up from there. Contreras can still do some work here, potentially. So it's not all lost. But it's not all great either. And again, we are getting close to the tire here too. The tire heating issue. So we'll have to exactly see how we want to deal with that. We're going to turn Contreras to neutral. We're going to have Nyman just recover energy for a while. And once we see some, you know, gaps forming, that is when we'll start to to climb back up. We can see Sargent here kind of letting go. Behrman has probably done something. And he has virtual safety car.
And yep, it's the Haas that's affected there. Let's follow the drivers then through turn 16. And
basically whacked the car a bit, but yeah, that shows that we already have a bit of an interesting one here in terms of what can happen. But yeah, shame for Nyman. Was a good quali. Immediately just locks up into, well, halfway through the first lap. And there's nothing really can do with that. But it does give us a chance to just recharge, get a little bit extra energy, get ourselves a bit of a better chance to fight. So it's not all bad, but it's not great either, for that matter. Virtual safety car is ending. Let us deploy with both cars. And we'll see if we can make some places up here now that the virtual safety car has done its job. For Nyman, the Reese is going to be the first and probably harder of the targets here. And there have formed some gaps that will make life a little bit easier. But the Reese does have a bit of a DRS defense here, so it's not going to be straightforward in getting by him. Contreras has the same issue here with the Merc, but looks like the launch there did go well, surprisingly. And I want to have a look at that.
Look, here we head into turn 2. It's there for the taking.
To be fair, it looks like that Merc put the front wing into the red tires of the Ferrari. So lucky there, I dare say. But yeah, as you can see, Nyman is not having any luck so far with overtaking. We're going to go a little bit more risky here. Put it up too high and allow nature to take its course. Which is a horrible way to word it. I mean, understand? But at the same time, we kind of have to. If we want to have any chance of her getting points, she needs to make up as many places as quickly as possible before we do that first pit stop. Interesting enough, if for Contreras, the hard tire degradation is looking good. So at least that is nice to see on this track. And we are keeping up with the cars in front. Although, let's face it, the Red Bulls here are kind of going to sail off into the distance. But as long as our hard tire is, again, being used in a capacity where we kind of keep up with at least a podium place, I say this is alright. As long as, let's face it, even if you finish second, as long as I don't get fined, I'm going to see this as kind of a W. For now, though, we're just going to sit where we are. We're going to try and get Nyman further up. We're going to try and get Contreras further up. But it's kind of hard to judge anything at all right now because we are kind of in that stability zone where we are just trying to make the most out of these tires before we get into the next set. I genuinely think the best play we can do with Nyman is straight up just pit her. And what I mean by that is we're going to pit her for hard. We're going to allow her to just push as hard as you can on those hards. Make up a little bit of time to the other cars. And then we'll have to see what we do with that final soft stint. But I think really that is the best bet. We're just going to have to push those hards, see if we can jump as many of these cars ahead of us as possible under the pit stop. And then work from there. Because I don't think we really have any other options. She's been behind Show and Albin for so long. Been unable to make any moves. And honestly just eaten up to tires completely at this stage. So again, don't see any other real options there other than, as I said, just pit her, get around on a fresh set of tires, and try and undercut as many of the cars in front as possible. Because it is basically just one long stretch here, and, you know, every lap she does under these tires is going to be massively helpful. As you can see with Contreras, though, we have a little bit of an interesting situation going right now. She's gotten away from the rest of the pack, namely Russell, and currently she is gaining on both Red Bulls quite significantly, but that is also a kind of a double-edged sword. Because if we do catch the Red Bulls here and end up pulling them along, we're going to probably suffer once we go into the next tire set, in this case the medium. So for now, we're just going to recharge and allow ourselves to still push up towards the Red Bulls, but I want to have full energy when we get there, so that when we get there we can get by them as quickly as possible and reinstate a gap. Although, to be fair, we're going to be pitting fairly soon. Same for Verstappen. But in the event that we do catch up, I do want to have a bit of a gap to work with. For Nyman now, though, pit stops here, probably around 23 seconds, so can jump up to about Magnussen, I think. But if we put in a little bit extra effort here, and again, if we manage to jump up to, say, Stroll somehow, that would actually be quite amazing. But yeah, they're going to be pitting fairly soon here. So I'm going to allow for a little bit of deployment. We want to just push that extra second and a half from using that little bit extra energy. And as you can see, we're basically almost caught up to debris again. So it's hard to overtake. I think this was the best option that we had. And as you can see, Contreras now is kind of struggling to keep up. So I would assume the Red Bull now is kind of pushing in order to get ready for their own pit stop. So yeah, could be a little bit rough. But Nyman, as I said, is flying 32 threes, quickest out of anyone right now. And if you compare it to, say, Piastri, Leclerc, even Stroll, we are gaining 2 seconds a lap. So potentially could play a key role for her teammate as well. But for now, we're just going to sit back, wait, and see how far we can push these tires, particularly Contreras, because we do need to make them last as long as possible. We have the first few pit stops here, Bottas, Piastri, Stroll. And as you can see, yeah, we almost jumped Stroll. We weren't that far off to actually get him here. 3 seconds. If we had 2 more laps, or I just pitted her 2 laps earlier, we could have had that happen. And as you can see, Bottas actually got out in front too. So it's still viable, honestly. And as we will be seeing more cars pit, Nyman will have better chances here of just jumping them. So I think what we're going to do with Contreras is very, very simple. We're just going to respond to whatever Verstappen does. And honestly, even then, we might want to just run these tires a little bit longer in case we get a lucky red flag. So there is some considerations there. We'll have to see how well they work out. We do have Piastri behind us, and we can kind of use him as a little bit of a pulley help. There we go. Schumacher, De Vries out of the way for free. But as I'm saying, Piastri is going to be a little bit of a nuisance. But for now, I think that's going to be okay. Contreras losing out a little bit, but still looking good. And that is kind of what we're hoping for here. Now, in terms of our pit stop window, it's looking kind of neat. We do still have these medium runners, so again, I do want to stretch them as much as possible so we don't get stuck behind them. But gaps have formed. Pitting right now isn't necessarily a terrible idea, so what I'm thinking is we get Contreras in on this lap, and we try and jump someone else in the pits. I think that is going to be the play. Now, Nyman here has, gotten back into the DRS train, and I'm going to need this DRS train to pit before we really get any inroads, but not much we can do about that. Contreras, though, makes it out in, I think that was 5th and then overtook Ocon. So perfectly pitted here, basically. Gets a lot of free air, gets a lot of freedom to just push and do her own thing, which is beautiful for us. I probably should pay more attention to what she was doing rather than Nyman down in 17th. But yeah. Didn't really work out for us, this strategy either, unfortunately. We still have cars just being kind of blocking us in. In this case, Piastri is being a little bit of a nuisance, but Nyman now making moves. If we can get by Show too, that would be very, very nice. Verstappen does now pit. Are we going to jump him in the pit stop? I don't think so, maybe? We did. We jump Verstappen in the pits. That's actually quite important for the strategy here. But we are going to have to... We're basically going to be required at this point to stay ahead of him. And grow that gap as much as possible, because we are going to be pitting again. These mediums with our current, push, it's not going to make it till the end. So we need to grow that gap to Verstappen as large as possible. And if we can do that, Contreras is in with a real chance here. Nyman is still kind of struggling to get by a Williams at this point, but got it done. Unfortunately, though, lost DRS as a result, but managed to jump Leclerc in the pits, so it's not all bad. The main concern, though, is that everyone here is going to end up pitting. And once we pit the second time to go into that final soft stint, we are going to probably have a pretty bad time. We have gotten by Russell, though, but Russell overtakes us because they like to do it into that final corner.
The gap opens up for them.
And the DRS detection point is, just around that corner. So we basically set ourselves up for getting re-overtaken on the next straight. For now, though, we are going to deploy. I want to get away from Russell, because Russell could act as, a little bit of a connecting piece to Verstappen. And that's kind of what he's doing right now, being that little bit of a helping piece that allows Verstappen to kind of catch up. There we go. We need to push and we need to be quicker than Verstappen on this set of tyres if we are to have any chance of winning. Either that or a lucky red flag. Those are the only two options that we have ahead of us here. But for now though, we'll keep things as they are. Nyman is in 11th, still looking, you know, probably not for any points here. We are going to have to pit again. Didn't really get any of the jumps that we really wanted to during the pit stops, unfortunately. And for Contreras, as I said, the goal here will just be to extend the gap down to Verstappen, and we'll do our best in making that happen. We'll see where we're at once we get close to that final pit stop for both of our cars. We basically reached a point now where we're going to be pitting Nyman fairly soon. And as you can see here, we are going to go into the soft, and we are going to have to just go with an aggressive, you know, strategy. Now, Nyman, in terms of where to come out, is going to be towards the back again. There's just no way around that. Luckily, there's enough gaps right now that any DRS zone we get into should just be an overtake opportunity. Contreras has done very, very well. Eked out a good 8 seconds to Verstappen, 14 seconds so far to Norris. And I do want to push her on these medium tires until they're gone. Because that'll give us the chance to push those hards, those softs. And to be fair here, if Contreras can push these full attack till the end, so can probably Nyman. But I want to play it a little bit safer for her sake, honestly. But we can probably just do 2-3 laps on aggressive and then go full attack towards the end. Now for Contreras, we will be pitting this lap, we will be pitting onto a soft tire, and we will be gambling on being able to go full attack till the end. It's kind of a big gamble, don't get me wrong. But it's the only gamble that we really have available to us if we want to beat the Red Bulls here. So that is exactly what we are going to do. We are going to come out behind both Red Bulls, there's just no way around that. 24 seconds in the pit lane. But 10 seconds behind Verstappen with fresh softs versus, you know, more used softs, more used mediums. It's definitely not a done deal yet in terms of how this is going to go. And for Contreras here now, sorry, Nyman, we are going to go a little bit more on the attacking side. And we're going to allow her now to just chase down others. Unfortunately here, as you can see, we have Schumacher and Albon kind of being blockers again. So we're probably going to have to recharge a little bit. But even if we lose, say, 5-6% per lap right now, that should still be somewhat a-okay to get this, this race underway. Contreras too, we just recharge a little bit so that we can have a little bit of more push value once we get close to the cars in front. And right now we aren't actually catching them much, if any, at all. But I think this is still acceptable. Nyman now on Schumacher. Can get the move done. And again, we could potentially have her in the points this time around. But it's still going to be a bit of a, you know, strong fight here. No way around it. And we are very close to overheating these tires, 125 degrees. So we might also have to consider getting a little bit of extra brake cooling on these tires because of our drivers having, you know, a bit of a lacking skills when it comes to their smoothness, so to speak. As you can see, they're going down quite aggressively at the moment. It's their fastest lap. We are up behind Norris at this point.
And we keep an eye on the tire temperatures. We will keep an eye on tire temperatures.
And that should give us, the second we get into the DRS zone here, a chance to get by him. And then we're, of course, going to try and chase down Verstappen. That is exactly what we are going to try and do here. I was going to turn Contreras head to high aggression because we need to get by immediately if we want to make this work. Unfortunately, the move gets made into that same, you know, DRS troublesome zone here. So Perez gets an opportunity to come back. Doesn't actually pull it off, though. And with that, I think... Sorry, I said Perez. I meant Norris. I've been playing this so much on autopilot now that the second Red Bull that isn't Verstappen is just, you know, Perez. Norris doesn't actually get a chance to come back, but he is following us. So we're still not clear, honestly. We're still in a tiny bit of trouble. And currently, well, we are catching Verstappen quite rapidly. Norris could, of course, toss a pretty significant spanner into that. And currently, though, looks like we're going to get DRS on the straight. So I would assume that we're going to just straight up come back at him. I would hope. Might just need to recharge here at this point. But yeah, Norris is actually going to be playing MVP here to Verstappen, holding us back a bit. Now, Nyman is actually doing most of the work herself. Godpocher basically going to be eating him. And next up we have Magnussen, before we have another DRS train ahead of us. So, Contreras is going to have to give everything now to just chase down Verstappen, although I have pushed her fuel into, you know, dead zone here. We are going to push Contreras here now. Just have her push a little bit. As long as she can get away from Norris, that allows a lot of freedom. But yeah, we're going to have to allow Nyman here to just recover that fuel. I was a little bit too focused on other things, unfortunately. It's one of those things that I tend to miss every now and again. But I am afraid that we're probably not going to have the tire to fight Verstappen come the last few laps here. We aren't even catching anymore, which is kind of an indicator of just how, not really screwed we are, but just we don't have enough pace right now to catch him. And that's going to be a bit of an issue here. And that's also why I'm thinking that we might have a little bit of a struggle here to even get the second best team, because Nyman has once again 2 races in a row now just had an incident very early that put her to the back of the field. But at least making a bit of a comeback this time around, getting back up into the points. Question is, how high up into the points are we speaking? And the tires here are going to die before the end of this lap too. But I still say that this is an aggressive showing so far. If you can get the Merc Nyman, I'm going to be very happy. If you can't, I'm still going to be proud of you. I think. But yeah, did make kind of a comeback here. We'll have one more chance to attack. Contreras, unfortunately, no such thing. If we had a couple more laps, maybe. But that is still a fairly strong showing. Don't get me wrong. Let's see if Nyman can snatch a few more points here from Ocon, because we might need that. But again, the tires are just gone. Makes it very hard to do anything, really. Tires are very, very hot right now. Yeah, they're also in the danger of puncture in just a second here. Did potentially get the Merc, though, if the Merc wasn't clever and just stepped out of line. Nope. Pull that off. Very nice.
That's it.
I want to see, because it seemed like Ocon kind of gave it away.
The straights here. They decide to give it a go.
Looked a little bit weird, but we'll take that. 2nd and 8th, but let's be honest here. If Nyman didn't have that incident, we probably would have had both cars on the podium. So we can somewhat fight Red Bull, but we're going to have to beat Max when we can. This was one of those chances, unfortunately. It slipped through our fingers. But again, the more used I get to, you know, what our drivers are actually capable of in terms of tires, for one, we're going to have to, of course, adjust strategy as we go. But now we're kind of doing the same thing and just sitting ahead against the wall. But as we get more used to it, it's going to be a lot easier. Verstappen first, Norris third, we're 2nd and 8th. Russell in 4th, Gasly and Bottas in 5th and 6th. Then we have Leclerc, then Ocon and Stroll. So Constructors is going to look a little bit interesting, I think, this year. But we're still 2nd in both of them, Driver Championship and Constructors. And yeah, Williams ahead of a Merc. This is going to be a very, very interesting season, I think. It's a shame for Tsunoda, though, that he didn't actually get himself a new seat. With that said, though, past the pit stops here. Again, all pretty quick. But again, I think that is due to the quote-unquote bug. But we'll see. It's probably going to be a lot better on newer saves, I would hope. For now, though, I think I'm going to have to cut this episode right here. Rear wing manufactured, side pod manufactured. And the reason for that is incredibly simple. We kind of have to. I'm just going to have a quick look around how the board feels. Current progress is below target. They are happy with the race performance. They're satisfied. So I believe it's fine for now, I think. Objectives are delighted. So yeah, we'll have to see how we do with this one. And this one, of course, could be that I'm given an extra year maybe due to other performances, but we'll see. For now, though, as I said, we'll end it here. If there's interest, I'll play the next few races a little bit slower, do a little bit more on race strategy maybe, because we do have a couple of drivers that kind of need it. And as I said, we'll have a look at the car then with the rear wing. But currently, we should be back to first and everything. The dirty air tournaments is kind of, you know, bad, but it's bearable. Same way with the brake cooling, engine cooling. It would be nice to get them higher, but we could potentially also sacrifice a little bit more engine cooling on a side pod if we really need performance. So we'll see what we do once we get these designs done. But we're going to end this episode here. We probably have an interesting season on our hands. Let me know what you think. If you've enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe. Helps me out a ton. And I shall see you around next time. Bye-bye.